So WrestleMania 30 ended, and a lot of people probably consider this the worst WrestleMania of all time. That's, of course, them. Myself, I thought it was actually a pretty good one this year. I was surprised. I was very thrown back. Well, I was very fortunate enough to catch this on WWE.com via the paid service called The Network. It was actually streaming quite well. I give props to at least the stream never skipping a beat once. It was like very fluid. Everything was really high definition too, so it was really nice to watch. But alright. On to the said first match. Now the Fatal 4-Way, which was for the Tag Team Championships. Well, I never watched that. I was playing a video game at the time, so therefore did not watch it, have no opinion about it. Oh, goody, good. I guess the Usos won. Anyway, I guess WrestleMania 30 starts off with Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold, and The Rock, of course, opening it up, blah, 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 patting each other on the back, going through memory lane, then pretty much toasting it off with a Steve Weiser, as they would call it. Didn't really see that part at all. I just pretty much saw the mid of the Daniel Bryan versus Triple H match. Now, near the end of it, it was actually quite exciting. It was actually a good put-on match. I didn't think it was boring as, I would say, the Shield match. Now, people, the Shield was just showing their highlights. I mean, I understand that. They were just pretty much having the New Age Outlaws and Kane job to them so that way you could put these guys over. I understand that, but it was still kind of a boring match just to see it one-sided, though, especially for a pay-per-view match. But alright, let's rewind back to the Daniel Bryan and Triple H match, however. It was a little bit exciting towards the end. I guess supposedly it was a little bit boring at first in the beginning, but then it just started building up and building up and building up, and it got exciting, and I was really into it too. I was like, yeah! So Daniel Bryan ends up winning that match and qualifies for the WWE World Heavyweight title. Which, titles, as I call it, because there's really no unification. They should be using the unified fucking title belt, for fuck's sake, for this said example. Because holding two belts doesn't make it... Anyway, I digress. So, the next match after the Shield versus the Kane and New Age Outlaws, which I'm not really going to talk too much about, I just really felt it was disappointing. But the Cesaro won the 30 Superstar Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Watch this match going in, you expected the Big Show to win. Everyone thought he was just going to win flat out, just to give him a big pat on the back because this is the 30th WrestleMania produced. Big Show's been with the company for years, blah, blah, blah. However, Cesaro, and as well as Jack Swagger, has been going on a pretty uplifting, I'd like to call fan base appreciation, where people have been really behind them. So therefore, Cesaro enters this battle royal and ends up winning it by super lifting, and I mean super lifting, Big Show and just throwing his ass completely over the rope. Just cleanly throwing him over the rope, which is like an awesome feat of strength. Like, he just lifted him up like a baby, practically, of what the example would be from that. It was a pretty decent battle royal, I'd have to say. It had a lot of excitement moments. It had Kofi Kingston pretty much almost surviving an elimination, by keeping his feet on the steps, which probably would be shown as highlights through Raw tomorrow, or probably a day beforehand. You could catch the highlights probably on some internet website that probably captured all the said moments, or the entire WrestleMania, probably. Who knows? But either way, it was actually a pretty good said battle royal, and it was actually satisfactory to watch. Then we move on to the John Cena versus the Bray Wyatt one. Now this actually had some pretty good psychology behind it. It had a really good... It was a slow-paced match. Had some pretty, I would guess, brawling moments. But it honestly... It was an alright match. I'm not going to say it was the greatest match of all time, because obviously it was Super fucking Cena all over again. Him trying to overcome the odds kind of shit. So, again, you weren't expecting anything extravagant from Cena here. Him trying to hold himself back from becoming his monster, supposedly. That's all there was to that match. It was a good showing. Bray Wyatt did some pretty good psychology in the ring. It was something that if you are a said Mark or Smart or a weekend warrior wrestler, I suppose, would catch on to that and appreciate it as myself. I mean, it was took me back a little bit to the Jake the Snake moments where he used to do the psychology in the ring as well. So it kind of gave me that nice feel at the end, at least during certain segments of the match. So it was a passable but enjoyable match, I suppose. I'm not really into John Cena. I respect what he does, but at the same time, I just don't give a shit about him. I kind of ignore him and focus on the opposite guy on the side of the ring and see what he does through the match, which it carried through all right. Next was the Brock Lesnar and the Undertaker match, which I'll talk about that one last, actually, I think, throughout this entire segment, or at least my little opinions here. And the Divas match, you know, was a piss break for me. I didn't really give a shit. I wasn't paying attention to that. I was just practically playing on my cell phone through some game. I didn't really care. I don't really care because the way the Divas get handled is everyone's like, you know, the hipsters of the internet will say. So didn't pay too much attention to that, so I can't really give you an opinion of that one. And next, but last but not least, at least was the last match of the night, was Bryan Danielson, or Daniel Bryan, versus Randy Orton and Batista. Now, these three, of course, had some, you know, had a little bit of chemistry, I guess. They were going through. It was a good match. It was like a lot of high spots. It was a lot of crazy shit going on at once. And I would say it would be one of the highlights of the night. I mean, it was especially next to this. I mean, this totally makes me sound like a mark for saying this, but it's practically as good as the Bryan Danielson versus Triple H, and as well as the, I would say as good as the Battle Royal one, too. I mean, it was a good matches in this. I mean, it wasn't a horrible pay-per-view at all. So, you know, these guys carried each other through the entire match. Batista blotched. Randy Orton blotched a little bit. Daniel Bryan, I believe, blotched a couple times. Again, I'm not here to be saying, ooh, you know, pointing and laughing, but again, it was sort of humorous to watch these bits here and there. So he had that going on. Randy Orton and Batista teamed up, and then they end up did a Batista bomb / RKO to Daniel Bryan through the table, which Randy Orton smashed his spine / back into one of those teleprompts on the Spanish announce table, and you can see the marks on his back. It was like, ooh, it looked like it fucking hurt worse than what happened to Bryan. So the EMTs, as they used to call them, or the responders, came through, and they were going to pick up the pieces of Bryan Danielson and carrying him off to the back. Obviously gets off the stretcher, but I'll finish off with that after and say that the two folks, such as Hunter and, of course, Stephanie, tried to interfere with this match, try to fuck it all over, and, of course, put the said shady ref into this situation, and Bryan overcame the odds with that. Now, again, it had a lot of high spot moments where you thought the match was just going to end from there, but it didn't. It just kept on going up until the end, which was a good finish. I mean, yes, Bryan Danielson, I would say, worked his ass off with the company and deserved it. A lot of folks who say, oh, he's overhyped. Oh, you know, you're going to hear that for quite a while now since he's actually won the title, which he did, which was actually quite a showing. A double duty / good finish, I would say. It was actually, he got his upcomings, so to speak, as most of those smarks would say on the internet. But again, it was a pretty good match. Batista was blotching like crazy. Did a spear headbutt to Bryan Danielson, which was hilarious. I was laughing about that too. So they had that going. And the last match, certainly not least, was the Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar. You're curious who won this match. You're saying, oh, Undertaker won this year. Oh, he's such a great wrestler. Oh, well, you're going to be wrong. This year marks the 30th Wrestlemania. Now, Undertaker has mentioned in the past, probably behind the scenes, that everybody else and those who are these said sources or inside sources have mentioned this in the past. Undertaker's getting old. I'm not saying him as a character is getting old. I'm just saying generally he is getting in his ages, or in his age, should I say. So therefore, he's getting tired. He's just not feeling it anymore. He's broken in pieces. He's basically a plate of glass that's been broken in half now. He's over it. So while it wasn't really a guy that I would say would deserve the streak reign, or at least get the award for that, for beating Undertaker, it happened. A lot of folks on the internet are really pissed off about it, which I guess I don't blame them, because a lot of people were behind Undertaker 100% of the way, and of course, the whole thing behind the Undertaker streak is some sort of sentimental nostalgia value to it, where people appreciate it for just being Undertaker kicks some guy's ass, even though gets his ass whipped for a long period of the match, and that's the end of the match right there. And Undertaker raises his hand and limps off into pain and misery. So, again, you had this guy named Brock Lesnar, who's a part-timer, as everyone calls him, and he beats the Undertaker. The entire crowd was dead silent. Like, you can hear the piss probably in the urinals in the back somewhere. That's how quiet it was. A lot of memes probably going to ensue from this, of course, from most of the folks in the audience, just having these shocked looks on their faces, and rightfully so. Even the announcers are just like, they really sold it well of how Undertaker lost his streak. So, for me, quite frankly, I wasn't too emotionally developed into this match, because I was barely paying attention to it, past some of the highlights. Like, I'd heard, like, the voices getting crazy, so I'd click back in and look, and I was like, oh, it wasn't that great of a match. It was alright by standard. It was probably, I would say, a 7.0 kind of average kind of match, where it wasn't anything that was highlighting for Undertaker, because obviously the Undertaker is getting old again, as I said, so he can't quite do all the moves he used to do back in the day. He did do a couple good things here and there, such as the Hell's Gate submission hold, but again, he's getting there. So I wasn't expecting too much heavily out of this match, especially out of Brock Lesnar. Usually at least for a couple of years, he had a workhorse versus the Undertaker, such as like Hunter, which of course Hunter does a good carry. Like, he'll put a guy over pretty well. Like, he'll sell shit pretty decently. So Brock isn't really that kind of guy. I would say deserve it myself. I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, he won the match. A lot of Brock fans are happy, and everyone goes home happy, I suppose, with that fence, or that side of the fence, should I say. However, the way it finished, I would say, was a lot of fans were pissed off, which I guess it's sort of, I'm not going to say good, but it was sort of a change of pace, I suppose, from the typical norm. A lot of folks are expecting change or want change from WWE, but again, riot when something like The Undertaker here loses. And again, I'm not happy myself a little bit. I mean, it was sort of a shitty way to, I would say, kill the streak, but it happened. The guy's getting old. He probably wished it to be that way, whatever. Give Brock Lesnar a lot of heat, give him a notch in his belt, and Undertaker can go home and rest. That's all I can generally say. So, for a pay-per-view overall, I would say that it had a lot of good moments. It was actually high-paced. It delivered, I would say, as a pay-per-view. It gave a shocking moment. It had a couple good matches, AAA matches. I can't say so much about the tag matches because I never watched it, particularly, so therefore I cannot say it's a good or bad match. So, whatever. And when it was watched that match, probably say, oh yeah, what's alright, yeah. Typical, Dusty Rhodes or Dustin Rhodes jump, like doing a barrel roll, flip into somebody over the fucking turnbuckle for all we know. The same high spots we've seen for a while now through most of these mixed tag team matches here. So, whatever, right? So, it was actually a pretty good pay-per-view overall. I would say I gave it a thumbs up. If you already watched the show, then obviously leave your feedback down below. I mean, a lot of people are really upset that probably Daniel Bryan won, saying he's overhyped, blah, blah, blah. The whole cliche bullshit of they're behind him, then they suddenly switch 360 and they say, oh, fuck that guy, type of thing. Me, quite frankly, I think he deserves it. He won and earned the title. He's been working really hard with the company for over the years. A well-deserving guy. At least they're putting new faces in front of the camera for once. So, there you have it. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. Blah, blah, blah. Touch my nipple.